My vision for the project is to create a habitat, a place not just for our, the native flora and fauna, which is what we all talk about, but for people to come back to. This was an idea that came up mostly from our next door neighbours. They've farmed this land for a lot of years, and they knew this patch was here, and there was a bit of a hidden gem underneath it all. We had a couple of trustees at Pine Valley Outdoor Centre that were quite keen to jump on. Marlborough Lions got in touch with us wanting to sponsor something in the Pine Valley area, something connected to the camp. Tim, the CEO at Wairau Lions, came out and we went for a walk around, and it was a weed arboretum. It was a mess. He said, I think that's what I'd like to sponsor. So initially he offered us $5,000 to draw up a management plan for the site, which we got in contact with John Priest from Wetlands New Zealand. We've got sponsorship secured from Marlborough Lions for 10 years for this project, and it's going well. Been lots of different groups involved in the site here, primarily the Pine Valley Outdoor Centre Trust and the Matt family from next door, but also we've had Outward Bound. Marlborough Lions themselves send their social club out and they plant trees. We've had groups from the Air Force, we've had groups from Vinlink doing community service days. We've had all sorts of different people out here working on the project. Our community is pretty fabulous in supporting the use of Marlborough, and that's what this project's all about. We caught 7 ferrets in a week down here, and not often kids get to see these things, so I knew it was fresh. I was like, oh, okay, I'll take it up to the camp and I'll show the children these things. And so I carried it in, and I was walking through the camp with it, and these 2 kids come running in and going, oh, look, that woman's got a meerkat. It's really enjoyable working with children in this sort of context. It's quite interesting to see it in flood because it shows us what wetlands do. The water comes up, it sits quietly, and it drains away. But then what it means for us is that our plants are getting nourished. Every time this water and this sediment comes through, it's putting a layer of nutrients on our plants, and they'll be all the happier for it. And so this is the importance of wetlands, is to absorb the floodwaters as they're coming out from the hill, creating a quiet sort of place, and then it will drain out into the wider river. So this is where our impenetrable wall of weeds started. So in 2021, you couldn't walk through here, much less see across. So we've removed hundreds of willows from the site. We couldn't see across the water or see at all what was in there when we took over the site. Some of these willows have been drilled and left standing deliberately for habitat for our kōtare and to provide some protection. When these branches fall down, they'll come away really quickly. They'll rot away and they'll improve soil quality and things like that. So at the moment, we just leave them to come crackling down when they're ready. Just monitor for safety, make sure that there's no overhanging branches or anything that's going to be dangerous for people working under them, but we largely leaving them to come away on their own. But as the project has progressed, there's been quite a lot of challenges to overcome, and it's involved thinking outside of the box. So it's the non-spreading female willows that we've got. The more we look at what we're doing and adapt to meet the challenges of the project, the more we're actually being creative in our thinking. We've ended up doing some things that are a little bit outside of everybody's comfort zone. Planting willows really goes against the grain when you've removed 200 other willow. Time will tell how it progresses and how the project changes, because we have got lots of different factors on this site, and there's a reason why it has become so weed infested and so out of control, because it's a little patch that's quite tricky to manage. When we did our surveys of these plants and birds and freshwater species that were in here, we found that we've got a non-migratory dwarf galexid species that lives in here, a tiny little galaxids that just live their entire life cycle in the one space. So it's pretty cool to have those in here. And also recently we discovered a Sparganium species. Now, I'm not a botanist, Sparganium snuffleupagus or something that's in here that the botanists get excited about. But again, it's another good reason to protect the area. It's something that hasn't been seen in the top of the South Island for 100 years. Another part of thinking outside the box is when you're doing restorations with children, it's never going to go quite the way you think it's going to go. And we've had a few challenges again with planting with children. With your plant spacings and putting your different plant varieties, children will like to do what they want, and there's a balance between getting it right from a restoration perspective and getting children actually happily involved. Some children just want a bucket of water, other people want to plant their tree within 30 centimetres of their best friend so they grow together. And it's about actually taking a step back and going, nature will sort that out in its own time. It's actually better in this moment that the children are engaged and enjoying the experience, because that's what they'll remember. We've had some really hilarious feedback from children. We had a little girl from one of the local schools. She said, this is like a video game, but only better because it's in real life. It was the cutest thing. And so that's why we do what we do with children. It's not about a perfect restoration, but about many hands coming into doing it together, and hopefully children will bring their children back or their family back. Come and visit us and open to the public.